Good afternoon and welcome to ITV News at noon. I am Chukufumnanya Digwe. Now, the federal government has secured the release of the remaining 130 school children kidnapped from a Catholic boarding school in Niger State. The authorities say the development is part of a moment of triumph and relief following one of the country's worst mass kidnappings. More than 250 pupils and staff were abducted from St. Mary's Catholic School in Papiri on November 21, 2025. Earlier this month, about 100 of the victims were released. Authorities confirmed that all remaining captives have now regained their freedom, stating that no pupil remains in captivity. Presidential spokesperson Bayo Onanuga said the total number of freed students now stands at 230. Details of how the release was secured were not disclosed, and it remains unclear whether any ransom was paid. The rescued students are now expected to arrive in Minna, the Niger State capital, on Monday. The incident is part of a disturbing trend of attacks on schools and places of worship across northern and central Nigeria, though authorities say all victims from related attacks in Kwara and Kebbi states have also been released. Moving on, the federal government has declared Thursday, December 25 and Friday, December 26, 2025 as public holidays to mark Christmas and Boxing Day. The government also declared Thursday, January 1, 2026 for the New Year celebration. The declaration was contained in a statement issued on Monday by the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Interior, Dr. Magdalene Ajani, on behalf of the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo. According to the statement, the minister urged Nigerians to reflect on the values of love, peace, humility, and sacrifice associated with the birth of Jesus Christ. Tunji-Ojo also called on citizens, irrespective of faith or ethnicity, to use the festive season to pray for peace, improve security, and national progress. He further advised Nigerians to remain law-abiding and security-conscious during the celebrations, while wishing them a Merry Christmas and prosperous New Year. Now, it was a grand ceremony over the weekend in Benin City when the solemnization of holy matrimony between Usai Zena Ize-Iyamu and Hayford Idwori-Ekeme took place. Wellington Akodeja reports that the former governor of Edo State, Chief Lucky Nosakari Benedion, Edo State Deputy Governor, Mr. Dennis Idahosa, senators, and first-class traditional rulers attended the wedding ceremony.
As from today, accept you, Hayford Usai Idwori-Ekeme, as my husband.
I marry you. I surrender myself to you.
Exchange of marital vows and administration of marriage oaths on Usai Zena Ize-Iyamu and Hayford Usarunwenta Idwori-Ekeme at the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Region 13 on Sapele Road, Benin City. The church was packed full with dignitaries, including the senator representing Edo South, Barrister Neda Imaswe, member representing Oredo Federal Constituency, Engineer Sosa Iyawe, a prominent traditional personality from Delta State, Chief Amami Ayiri, retired and serving Chief Justices in Edo and Delta State, who were on the ground to honor Ize-Iyamu and Idwori-Ekeme families. One of the officiating priests, Peter Balogun, in a homily urged the couple to build their marriage on God and cultivate the habit of perseverance, especially during challenges.
Grace is not a Bible school subject. Grace is not a message. Grace is a person. His name is Jesus.
The event later shifted to a grand reception at the military hospital on Airport Road, Benin City, in a beautiful decorated tent where guests were lavishly entertained. The chairman of the occasion and the former governor of Edo State, Chief Lucky Nosakari Benedion, gave a word of advice to the newlywed.
You can never win any argument, total argument against a woman. So when it's time to argue, it's better for you to listen. And those
as a medical doctor, we must learn to take care of the husband, both mentally, physically, and of course spiritually.
Nathan Neda Imaswe also prayed for the success of the marriage.
Just looking at the demeanor of the bride and looking at her upbringing, I believe that there will be a couple of refuge.
The couples said they believe in God as they settle down.
I pray we continue laughing the way we like to laugh now.
I really appreciate everyone who has come to celebrate us.
Parents of the couple, Pastor Osage Izeyamo, Mr. Matthew Idoyekeme, thank God for the array of guests that show love to their family.
We are very grateful for honoring us with the presence. We thank God for the presence of Pastor Charles Osage and the wife. Rock of Ages, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Also thank you, the Secretary of PFM, Pastor Phil Aloji. I want to appreciate the Special Advisor to the Governor of Religious Matters, Apostle Suleiman. I want to especially acknowledge and appreciate the presence of the former governor and his wife, Edo State. My boss, my leader, Chief Lucky Mr.
I wish them to have a happier marriage than all the marriages before them.
The traditional marriage has also been held the previous day from Benin, Wellington, Akodija, ITV News.
Now moving on, the Defense Headquarters has announced that proactive measures are in place to prevent attacks during the Christmas festivities across Nigeria. In a statement on Sunday, the Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Michael Onoja, said the Armed Forces of Nigeria, in collaboration with other security agencies, have intensified operations in identified vulnerable areas. General Onoja disclosed that surveillance activities, including aerial monitoring and intelligence gathering, have been heightened to track the movement and communication of suspected criminal elements. He added that units commanders have been directed to strengthen patrols, establish fortified checkpoints, and maintain close collaboration with community leaders, local vigilante groups, and state security outfits. The Defense Headquarters emphasized its commitment to protecting lives and property, noting that national security and stability remain top priorities as citizens prepare to celebrate the Yuletide. The director also urged members of the public to remain vigilant and promptly report suspicious activities to security agencies. He further conveyed Christmas and New Year goodwill messages from the Chief of Defense Staff, General O.O. Oluyede, while encouraging wide dissemination of the advisory. Similarly, the Rivers State Police Command has announced enhanced security measures for the Yuletide season, with tactical units deployed to waterways, recreational centers, and other identified hotspots across the state. In another report, Christians have been asked to see Christmas as not a season for merriment, but reflection on the gifts of the Lord Jesus Christ to humanity and brought salvation to mankind. Osamu Yogbomo reports that the officiating minister at the 2025 God's Historic Churches Festival of 9 Lessons and Carols, Reverend Osamu Jame Afe, handed down the admonition. The report is presented by Osemu Jame Osaige.
Some prominent members of the church, including Chief Elder Osaitin Inadegi, took the first lesson, while Elder Mrs. Uwadiai took second lesson, as Deacon Okudili Agbaso took the third lesson. Mrs. Agbaso read the fourth lesson, while the Executive Director Operations, ITV and Radio, Chief Elder Ogbedi Uwose, took the fifth lesson, as Deacon Jeff Ideye read the sixth lesson. Elder Tony Obasaki took the seventh lesson, and Christian Anyanru read the eighth lesson, as Lady Vivian Usayande took the ninth lesson.
And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary, his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. For unto us the child is born, unto us the son is given.
The resident pastor of the church, Reverend Osamudame Afe, said the season is a period that has been chosen to celebrate Jesus Christ for fulfilling God's divine benevolence on mankind.
God sent forth his son, made of a woman, made under the law. Verse 5. To redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive adoption of sons. So the purpose of Christmas, God wants to redeem you back to himself.
High point of the 2025 God's Historic Church Festival of 9 Lessons and Carols was the grand appearance of Santa Claus, who came with loads of gifts. From Benin, Osemdeme Usagi, ITV News.
Now, the Oba of Benin, His Royal Majesty Omonoba Nedu Ukwa Oba Ewari II, has celebrated the Uge Mobu in continuation of the 2025 annual Uge. Ikponwosa Ogiagbe reports that the annual Uge marks the end of the Benin calendar year.
Ugemobu, a ceremony to ward off evil from the land, is in commemoration of the final defeat of the Benin giant Prince Idubo, popularly known as Arouan, who dwelled in Udo in the modern day Ovia Southwest local government area in a contest between him and Prince Osawe, who later ascended the throne as Oba Esige that reigned in Benin centuries ago. The palace of the Oba of Benin was agog with festivities as members of Ifiento and Isiemeo, the Benin traditional warriors, performed their roles to the delight of members of the royal family and guests. Ogbelaka group exhibited what they are known for, beating the drums and singing, as the Obazelu of Benin, Chief Osaro Ida, exhibited dance dexterity to the admiration of chiefs and others. The Benin monarch, Oba Ewai II, performed the Emobo dance and proceeded to Eduendo Shrine to pray for peace and progress of Benin Kingdom, Edo State, and Nigeria at large. From the palace of the Oba of Benin, Ikmonwosa Ugiagbe, ITV News.
And now on business news, the federal government has disclosed that about 15.2 million Nigerian homes are structurally inadequate, highlighting a severe housing challenge nationwide. The Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Ahmed Dangiwa, revealed the findings during the presentation of the National Housing Data Initiative in Abuja. He said the data confirms that Nigeria's housing problem goes beyond shortages to include quality and structural inadequacy, with Kano State recording the highest number of inadequate housing units, while Bayelsa State recorded the lowest. The minister explained that the findings were derived using internationally recognized methodologies and data from institutions including the National Bureau of Statistics and National Population Commission. He described the initiative as a major milestone in housing reform and disclosed plans to establish a National Housing Data Center to support policy formulation and investment decisions. Now, on the foreign scene, a Russian military general has been killed in a car bombing in Moscow, authorities have confirmed. Russia's investigative committee said Lieutenant General Fanil Savarov died on Monday morning after an explosive device planted under a vehicle detonated in a residential area of the capital. Savarov, aged 56, was the head of the Armed Forces Operational Training Department. Investigators said one of the theories being explored is possible involvement of Ukrainian intelligence services, though Ukraine has not commented. Images from the scene show a badly damaged vehicle in a car park near an apartment building. The attack adds to a series of targeted killings of Russian military officials since the invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. And now on sports, Africa Cup of Nations 2025 hosts Morocco began their campaign to win a second continental title with a 2-0 win over Comoros in the tournament opener in Rabat. The Atlas Lions spurned a glorious chance to take an 11th minute lead after Iyad Mohamed brought down Brahim Diaz in the box, but Comoros goalkeeper Yannick Pandor got his left knee to Soufiane Rahimi's penalty. The Indian Ocean Islanders sat back and frustrated their opponents until 10 minutes into the second half, when Diaz was left unmarked near the penalty spot to sweep home Norcia low ball across the box. The Real Madrid man's strike was greeted by a loud roar by the majority of fans in attendance at the Prince Moulay Abdallah Stadium, and the game then sparked into life as Comoros forward Rafiki Said was denied by the legs of Yassine Bounou. Substitute Ayoub El Kabi netted a sensational overhead kick with a quarter of an hour remaining to make the game safe for the North Africans and ensure that Walid Regragui's side lived up to pre-match expectations by delivering victory. The 3 points meant Morocco extended their world record run of consecutive victories to 19, and the Atlas Lions will now look ahead to their next match against Mali on Friday, December 26. And with that, we've come to the end of ITV News at noon. I am Chukwufumnanya Digwe. Thank you so much for watching. Good afternoon.
ITV, certainly the best.
ITV, certainly the best.
Omonomba Nedo Ukwakwalopolo Ewai II, Oba of Benin, performing during the 2025 Ododua Festival. Ododua Festival is unique as it was organized in honor of Ioba Omoni Hwoyeme, Ioba Ewai II, as part of activities for her burial rites. The rich traditions and cultural heritage of the Benin Kingdom was showcased when His Royal Majesty Ewai II engaged the floor to perform during Uge Ododua in the palace ground in Benin City. In the dance performance, the Ogbelaka royal drummers supplied the needed impetus and rhythm for the dance. However, tributes are paid by the head of Benin deities to the monarch, who was the cynosure at the event. The event can best be imagined as the spiritual rejuvenation, stunned, spectaculars and guests at the colorful ceremony. 7 masquerades representing 7 spirits and deities conveyed different meaning in company with the head of the deities of Benin, with the Oba of Benin, who exhibited a grand cultural dexterity in his dance steps.
Oh, yeah,
certainly the best.
It's Law and You, the program that brings legal issues to the people and the people to the law. Today, we shine the spotlight on accountability in governance, a cornerstone of democracy that ensures those entrusted with power do not abuse it or abandon their duties. But what happens when public officials fail to perform? Are citizens helpless observers, or does the law empower them to demand change and seek redress? From petitions and, of course, public interest litigations to recall processes and legal sanctions, this edition explores the legal remedies available to citizens when elected or appointed officials fail in their duties. We will be speaking with legal minds and, of course, rights advocates on what the Constitution says and what the court can do and what you, as a citizen, must know. And don't forget, you stay with us on Law and You as it unfolds the power of the law in the hands of the people. My name is Philip Omo-Gyukpo. We'll be looking at accountability in governance and, of course, legal remedies, that the citizens can explore. We will also have the opportunity to have the presence of a custodian of the law in the person of Emmanuel Obakolo. Big thanks for always having time to be part of the show.
Good afternoon, Philip. Good afternoon, Nigerians.
All right, let's quickly set the ball rolling. A lot that needs to be done as regards getting it right. We have a system that needs to, work effectively. But first of all, what is accountability in governance? And how does it apply to the citizens demanding this? What importance does it have for citizens to demand this from the government of the day?
Yeah, accountability, as pronounced, is to give records. So accountability in governance is the presentation of records on government's administration to the people and how those records have been properly handled by those in government. That is just accountability. So accountability is to ensure that the people understand and have knowledge on how governance is being carried out on their behalf by those in government.
Okay, but what is the importance? Why should they do that?
Yeah. If you look at governments, from the definition of democracy, it's a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. That is what democracy is. And now, government is a machinery of governance. So, those who are in government, they are managing the wealth of the nation on behalf of the people. And as such, they must give account of how those resources that are made available by the people on the people, so that the people will now understand and have knowledge properly on how governance is carried out. And this government, the governance must be on the benefit of the people. That is all. That is the singular reason why there must be accountability in governance. You don't go into administrative spree or financial spree on how to just spend public fund without being accountable to it.
Okay, do you see a disconnect in between, as in the aspect of the government functionaries, embarking on the accountability project to make sure that they give account to the people and render their still worship, and again the aspect of the people, those who are being governed, demanding this? Do you see a disconnect?
Yes, I say a disconnect because if you look at the provisions of the Constitution, the extant Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which upholds and observe and also demand practice of the separation of power, which is spelled out of and enshrined in section 4, 5, and 6, is all about accountability. And also, if you look at section 85 subsection 1 of the extant constitution, we provide for the office of the Auditor General of the Federation. The essence for the office of the Auditor General of the Federation is to provide for accountability, because he is the one who will audit government accounts, he audit government expenditure, and now know how money or monies that belong public fund has been used, administered, or utilized for the benefit of the people. So there is now a disconnection. Why do I say so? Because even the legislative arm, who ought to carry out oversight function in ensuring that the executive, which is vested with the power to perform executive function, and also the runnings of government on behalf of the people, are doing that as spelled out by the law. Unfortunately, we have a legislature, particularly in this Fourth Republic, that is so lackadaisical and a rubber stamp. So wherein instead of them to carry out their function, they are busy carrying out the lullaby of on your mandate we shall stand. That is not the reason why they are elected. That is not why a legislative function. The legislative function is to ensure that accounts and accountability as rendered by the executive are done on behalf of the people, even to them, properly, so that the people can now be beneficiaries of government expenditures and the runnings of government.
Okay, when you say the legislative arm seems to be failing in that, let's draw a dichotomy, because I understand separations of power, by Montesquieu has brought a situation where the legislative arm, make laws, and of course why the executive implement these laws, and then the judiciary, interpret and settle disputes, between all of this. Are you saying generally that the legislative arm under the system we operate in Nigeria is faulty to a point where any elected official seems to be tilting towards executive?
Yes, and I did say that with specific reference to the current legislative arm of government we have.
Did you say that, or do you say that as regards the officials or the system of practice?
It's not the system, because the Constitution does spell out how...
It's a constitutional provision.
And I also told you about section 85 subsection 1 of the extant Constitution, which also provide for the office of the Auditor General.
So it is not a problem of the law?
It's not a problem of the law. The law is there. Is the performance of the law now. And the legislative arm also have what we call oversight function, to question how public funds are being used. But here we are. We have a legislative arm of government with a specific reference to the National Assembly, who approves all manner of laws. And the same National Assembly does not take time to ask questions on how those laws are used for, the performance, how the executive arm of government, what they be able to administer those laws, and how it has been of benefit to the people of Nigeria. There's no question with reference to that. And that is why you see that it appears that there is no accountability to the people of Nigeria. And that is one of the weak point, pitfalls of this administration that we have just now.
Okay. But what do you see as a causative factor? Because everything seems to be placed on a vote. The ayes have it, or the nay.
With specific reference to public funds, it is more than the question of the aye or the nay have it. It is more than that. And that is why, I repeat, I did say that the legislative arm has a duty of oversight function, because the people cannot gather like a Portuguese assembly to begin to ask questions on what their monies are used for. It is their representative, both the Senate and the House of Representatives now, at the federal level, and the state houses of assembly at the state level, and the legislative arm of government at the local government level, who carry out this functionality on behalf of the people. And here we are. Their performance is a near it's
abysmal.
It's a near zero. Abysmal. That is the right word to use. And that is why you see today that even government after government, there is no form of accountability. And there is no how the people could ask questions. However, the Freedom of Information Act has provided another leeway for individuals or group of individuals to ask questions.
Thank you very much. Well, in case you're just coming across this program, it's Law and You, and we are all about accountability in governance and seeing what legal remedies are available for the citizens to, find a way to put a task on the public officials demanding accountability, of course, stewardship on the public office. And I've been speaking with Emmanuel Obakwolo. Well, Emmanuel Obakwolo raised some very, very vital issue as regards, finding a lasting solution to this. It was on my mind. You made mention of the fact that the people are giving their powers to the Legislative Assembly, their representatives, for instance. And then you also did not fail to say that even when or if these representatives fail to carry out the functions stricto sensu as they demand or request, then they also have another avenue to, explore, which is the Freedom of Information Act. Now, how can they do that? Can you deploy how this mechanism works?
Yeah. Section 3 of the Freedom of Information Act does make provision for an applicant, is a citizen now, can make application to any government institution to ask questions or to get information from that institution with respect to the day-to-day runnings of government, even where it is strictly financial.
Exactly.
Now, but that act also provides for exemptions. The act provides for exemptions where a citizen may not have the rights, or an applicant, stricto sensu, may not have the right to ask for information. And note, what are those? What is these exemptions? Exemptions are provided for in section 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 19 of the Freedom of Information Act. Section 12 specifically provides for defense, that you cannot come and make inquiry or get information with respect to defense. And I think that is commonsensical. That is understood. But where it has to do with accountability on how government is being run, with special reference or specific reference to public fraud, that information must be made available to that citizen. And where the act again goes further to say where that is refused, that applicant or that citizen has a remedy. Well, section 25, he cannot make an application to court for court to grant order to get that information.
We'll get there, gradually we'll get there. But let's explore what you just said. You have a way of troubling my mind. And of course, I don't know if you're also doing same ripples to the minds of the viewers. A situation where we look at it where an electoral act is specifically, establishes the provisions as regards any concept or how a thing should be done, in terms of accountability. And then there's still another way in which such a person or citizen cannot, explore, in details or directly or, totally from that same, function. It seems to my mind that it's an attempt to kill an initiative ahead of the purpose. I don't know how you explain that.
Well, the law has a golden eye, and the law sees the past, the present, and the future. That is the position of the law. And I think that is the singular reason why the law makes provision for exemptions. Because...
But when you say the law, men work on the laws.
Yes.
Before it becomes a law, or before they become laws, they were once bills. And so men work on it. So what is the guarantee that the men that work on this do not deliberately work on this in order to, protect their patrimony, their personal aggrandizement that may, they may want to seek from the common good that law or that bill, is seeking for in the law? I don't know if you get me.
Yes, you may not. That may not be. That cannot be removed from that fact.
Mm-hmm. Because we've had this with the Electoral Act.
It could be to protect.
Where the Electoral Act, some part, anyways, I'm not to speak on it, seems to protect those who are even the political actors.
Yes, when you make reference to Electoral Acts, you discover that in electoral matters, they are so unique and special to the extent that even the interpretation of the laws in marrying the functionality of the electoral officers and their performance in an election gives a wide protection. What do I mean by that? There are the courts in even interpreting the law with respect to electoral acts may not consider the actors of their functionalities, of their performance, but may consider what is known as public interest or public safety. That again, to some of us, we may question that what do we mean by public safety, where there is an infringement on the rights of the voter or the electorate. Where the right of the voter or the electorate is infringed upon, is violated, do you not say that whatever interpretation you give is for public safety? That is another question begging for answer. That even the courts have not been able to give answer to. But however, we've witnessed a lot of abracadabra, legal abracadabra, but with special reference or specific reference, to my mind, to the last 2023 general elections. We've seen it. Before now, we've seen that the court visit the law strictly on electoral matters. But just now, we've seen how there is protection with respect to that. But again, let's look at the subject matter. I did say that the Freedom of Information Acts provide for exemptions. And those exemptions are specified in sections 11 to section 19, with the removal of section 18 of the Freedom of Information Act. And that you can go to court as a remedy, section 25. Now, you can see that even that law, the Freedom of Information Act rather, also has given the court responsibility to make order with reference to information as applied by an applicant or a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So, it's still within the wisdom of the court to so grant or to refuse. Again, we may have the challenge of interpretation in the nearest future.
Thank you very much. But you just raised an issue that needs to be explained in total, because there's this aspect of, getting allocations that the federal government has given to each state, for instance, in their monthly revenues, of course, monthly allocations from the federal government to the states. We've always seen it where it is not properly broken down. We can hardly, have, reports on the monthly, allocations that each state gets from the federal government. All we can get from the Federal Accounts Allocation Committee most times are usually the total amount, that is being disbursed from the federal government to the states, but not the specific amount that each state gets month in, month out from the federal government. And that what you have to get it from the Accountant General of the state. to have a well-explained copy or copies of how the state gets month in, month out allocations from the federal government. Should it be so?
Yes, it ought not to be so, because we have seen that with specific reference to the way the executive carry out the day-to-day runnings of administration in this country, it has shown that there is no transparency. In a climate where there is transparency, there ought to be a breakdown. Even the Constitution makes it clear for there to be a breakdown of how public funds are distributed or shared amongst the federal government and the 36 states of the federation. But here we are, some executive maneuverings are being carried out so that the people of Nigeria will not know that. And now, if the people of Nigeria do not have access to that information, what about their representative at the legislative angle of it? Or
do they have access?
Do they have access? If they don't, do they ask questions with respect to that, or they are engaged in frivolities? So that is why the freedom, I think, that the Freedom of Information Act now makes provision.
That's the importance.
Individuals, citizens, group of citizens to make application.
Yeah, because
to get that information.
Yeah, because it's not every information that will be on the public space.
Yes.
So, but that Freedom of Information Act can also help.
Yes.
If you seek or require such information that may not readily be on the public space, so that you can easily access such,
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, but how fluid or how accessible is the office of the Attorney General, for instance?
It's accessible. It's a public office. You can make your application.
Okay.
And the Freedom of Information Act also saw the possibility of the institution wherein that application is made to refuses to grant that application or request as made. And the Act now provides for, in Section 25, that you can go to court to seek a redress so that the court can grant an order. And once the court grants an order, you bring that order to them so that they can furnish you with whatever information as specified in your application.
All right, this is quite a sensitive topic, and we will not be able to exhaust it in one episode. But in the next episode, we're going to be looking more into the sanctions, or how the citizens can be able to access remedies, these legal remedies, in tackling or finding way where the provisions of the law can make sanctions on non-performing public officials that are found wanting in terms of not being able to satisfy the public or the citizens in respect of giving account of their still worship. And that will be done basically next week. But before we round off on this, let's look at the aspect of the legislative arm, for instance, that you raised. This is an important arm of government that helps to oversee, deploy, that helps to look into oversight functions of the executive. Now, how can we strengthen this body in order to be able to help in accountability of the executive?
The law is clear with reference to legislative oversight, and that the legislature, their function as provided for by the Constitution is not just to make laws. Like we have agreed, they also have oversight functions
yes.
to perform.
Yes.
And when they refuse,
but they are lagging in that aspect. Like what you said, they are lagging in that aspect.
Yes.
So how do we strengthen that arm? But first of all, what could be the causative factor, and how can we strengthen that arm for it to be found, living up to expectation?
With the kind of legislative representative we have, and the unique structure of Nigeria, democratically, legally, and otherwise, we may have just one function or one role to play, and that is where you discover now to the citizens, where the citizens of Nigeria discover that the members of the legislative arm of government are not carrying out their functions as legislative arm, in the next election, don't vote for them.
Okay, you are talking about, okay, before that, we could also, explore the aspect of the recall process. And of course, sanctions that may also be given on that. But well, that would be what we will be having same time next week on Law and You. Well, a big thanks for taking our time to be part of this. Basically, that's what we're going to be looking at in the next episode, because we want to look at the recall process. How is it done? And of course, sanctions that will be given on non-performing public officials. How would that be carried out? So big thanks for taking our time to be part of this.
It's a pleasure to be.
My name is Philip Omar Gupon. We'll see you same time next week. Bye for now.
Certainly the best.
Ọba àtọ́pẹ́.
Gbajúmọ̀ ọba àtọ́pẹ́. Gbajúmọ̀.